What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Believe in Chargers. And you guys may think the biggest storyline is this Charger team being 10-6, absolutely blowing out the LA Rams. But I think Lorenzo Neal and I first we want to discuss the recent aftermath and events that happened on Monday night in the National Football League with Damar Hamlin. And first off and foremost, prayers up for Damar. But Lorenzo, I'll let you start as being a former professional athlete. Give me your whole thoughts on the situation.
Yeah, when you see it happen, Borna, you're like, okay, no big deal. Okay, that was a good tackle or whatever. You don't think it's anything serious, and then all of a sudden you don't know what's going on, and then they have to replay and show the guy stands up and fall out. For me, that wasn't the scary thing. Well, me, Borna, it was like, okay, so I've been in games where I've been knocked out. I've been in games where guys got carried off. You've been in games where you saw several weeks ago that they don't want him to play anymore. You look at the Miami Dolphins and think about their quarterback that's went through so many things, and you watched him get knocked out and his hands go limp, and you saw him twist, and everyone's just like, oh my God, is he going to be okay? So we've seen big hits, guys even paralyzed, all those different things people have seen, and usually the game continues. But it was something different Monday night. And that's when I saw those men crying, and you were the first time if I've ever seen in my 17 years playing in the pros, 4 years of high school, all those other things, Pee Wee, I've never seen someone come out and put a defibrillator and try to shock someone and they stop breathing and it's mouth to mouth. You've seen some horrible and horrific injuries. But when you see men and Josh Allen, these guys crying and watching a guy trying to resuscitate, you know that if you're resuscitating, not good. It was so troubling to me, and I was like, man, and I was thinking, how are they going to try to play? I said, because I don't know what I would do if there was a good friend of mine like Ladanian or Sean Merriam or someone that I was
Yeah.
out on a football field and I watched that actually happen in real time, and then they're flatline. You can't think about football. You're like, oh my God, they got family and you're on the team. You couldn't, and I kudos to the NFL for saying no. This is bigger than that. This is more than that. This is a game, and you're talking about someone's life that's still in critical condition. That seeing that
Sure.
he's fighting for his life. You couldn't play this game. Now the game has to be made up, and I understand. Hey, Cincinnati, had a good start. Cincinnati has a chance to unseed the number one seed, has a chance to be the number one. There's a lot of implications about that game. I get it, and I understand fans want to see that game take place. But that night, that stage, during that situation that occurred, the NFL handled that great. They handled
Yeah,
it.
and I agree, and I think there was a notion of people saying, What is the NFL doing? We want these teams to come out and warm up after 5 minutes." I want to try and illustrate to you guys when there's a time of catastrophe and crisis, no one knows what the heck is going on. No one knows what they're doing. And I think we have to give them the benefit of the doubt that, listen, I think it was acted as good as they could considering the situation. And for Damar Hamlin and his family, it's
Oh, thoughts and
we've
prayers. Wow.
thoughts and prayers. We've started to hear a little bit more of positive news. And what I'd love to see is that this great country of America is standing behind this family. They had a toy drive a few years ago that had a $2,500 donation goal. Now they're over $6 million. So
Thanks
it's
to
great
Tom
to see.
Brady, right?
Yeah,
Tom Brady.
it
Tom Brady's
yeah.
triggered that. That's awesome.
And it's great to see this country of America come together, right, and give all the support to this family. And I think we put it best. I think a lot of people complain and say, "Why do all these guys make so much money?" Well, they put their freaking lives out there on the field, and we saw it with Damar Hamlin. So thoughts and prayers up to Damar and his family, and hopefully the next time we're doing this episode, we can have some good news to share on that front. Well, anyways, guys, on that note, let's talk about some Chargers football as well. The Chargers find themselves at 10-6. Lorenzo Neal, they had a big time victory. They thrashed the Los Angeles Rams this past Sunday. They're already in the playoffs, but now they have their sights set even higher after the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Baltimore Ravens. The Chargers need a win, and they have the number 5 seed in the AFC. This was the most put together performance last week with the Chargers. Low. What are your thoughts on this team's performance, man?
Yeah, when you saw the way that they handled the Rams at that home stadium and watching everything you and I have been talking about, we've been saying we want to see this team. You asked, what do we want to see from this team? You and I last week before our podcast, we said, what do we want to see going into the Rams? And we said we want to see them finish. We wanted to see consistency, but we continue. You and I have been pounding and saying the same thing. We want to see this team run the ball with some efficiency. And you got to see it last Sunday. Eckler,
Bingo.
70-some yard touchdown from scrimmage. You got to see them consistently running the ball. You got to see a team starting to gel and play complementary football. This offense is starting to roll. The defense is rolling. That's what I wanted to see. You wanted to see this team make plays and play with more efficiency and be more balanced and not just have to necessarily depend on the pass. And I'm telling you, to me, Borna, that was the big thing that I was wanting to see. More consistency, more balance, and not just to run the ball, but run the ball with some efficiency and consistency. And I thought we got to see that on Sunday.
Lorenzo Neal, they ran the football. They ran the football well. Hallelujah. I thought this day would never come, guys. Make sure you go check out our sponsors at betonline.ag, your number one source for all your sports betting needs. You'll always find the latest odds. And if you were to tell me on betonline that the Chargers would run for 31 rushes for 192 yards, I would have said you're crazy. But they did do that, everybody. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite games and events. Go to betonline.ag. Use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your rewards and your 50% welcome bonus. Lorenzo Neal, here's the thing, man. They ran the football effectively. Not only they ran it effectively, they ran it a lot. They ran the ball 31 times, but they're able to do so while still preserving and keeping Austin Eckler fresh. They only gave him the rock 10 times. Joshua Kelly ran the ball 9 times. Larry Ranch times. It was a running backs by committee because although the Chargers clinched, they do want that 5 seed. They do need to preserve their starters and their talent for this postseason run. But Lorenzo Neal, you hit it right on the head. Justin Herbert, talk to me about the importance of this. He only threw the ball 28 times. Every other week it's been 50 plus. Talk to me how good that must feel for Herbo in this offense.
Yeah, that's what you want. You want to see when you have a franchise quarterback in and week out, he has to throw the ball 40 to 50 times to stay in games and to win ball games. That's a lot of pressure on your quarterback. So when you look at the Chargers and think about where they were at Indianapolis, we talked about that 2 weeks ago, and seeing the way that they picked up the gauntlet and said, we're going to continue that over to the Rams games. That's what you want to see, especially Borna during this time of the year. They always say, December and January, those, playoffs starting, getting ready to start. You want to be able to do a couple things: run the ball, win the turnover battle, and limit the amount of penalties. And the Chargers are doing that.
And listen, heading into Monday night, which was this Bills-Bengals game, before that, there were only 3 teams on longer winning streaks than the Chargers. It was the 49ers who had won 9 in a row, the Bengals with 7, the Bills with 6, and then it was the Chargers right behind them with 4 in a row. So you're starting to see this team get on a roll. And Lorenzo, I want to talk about this offense because I feel like most episodes as of late we've been spending time on this defense, but I do want to spend time on the defense one more time because they played well defensively again. And now it's been 5-6 weeks of this Chargers defense playing very, very well. They only gave up 10 points, and it wasn't a perfect performance, right? They didn't stop the run as good as they wanted to. They were a bit leaky in the run defense, but I'll tell you this right now. They still were able to generate a fantastic pass rush. Kyle Van Noy is playing out of his mind right now. And the biggest issue with this Chargers defense earlier on this season was that they kept allowing explosive plays. However, they only allowed 2 explosive plays in this Rams games, and they held them to 10 points. They limited Baker Mayfield to 132 passing yards and only 11 completions. I understand this Rams offense isn't what we thought they were going to be. I understand there's a lot of injuries, but the Chargers defense have only allowed 125 passing yards per game over the past 4 games. That is elite numbers, and that is fantastic to see that Brandon Staley has had this team playing well. So, Lo, talk about this Chargers defense. It feels like every single week they're just developing more and more momentum as we head into the postseason.
Yeah, and you gotta love this what you alluded to, especially when teams are in a situation where they have to throw the ball. And a lot of teams, it, at the end of the game where it's one-sided and a team's down and there's a deficit, usually that team usually has a lot of yards throwing the ball because of the fact they're usually down, so they're gonna throw the ball around the field. The one thing the Chargers are doing, Borna, they're challenging receivers and they're putting pressure on quarterbacks and making like guys like Baker Mayfield run around for their lives, can't find the open receiver. So that's what I love. I love that they're plastering receivers. That means you hit them and you plaster them, you stay connected to them. They're not letting them get a lot of separation. So they're playing really good ball, especially when you talk about the second half of ball games when teams are just going to really throw it and you start to see them get a lot of we like to call it garbage time. In the garbage time, usually you pad some numbers, but the Chargers understand that and they're able to keep down those garbage pads as well.
Absolutely. I want to give Chargers fans an update too as we're recording this in real time. Chargers injury report just came out, and you may be a little bit concerned. We see Justin Herbert's on the Chargers injury report. Left shoulder injury. It's supposed to be very minor. He practiced full today, but I do want to note to Chargers fans that he is on the injury report. Other guys like Trey Pipkins, Jamari Taylor, they've kind of been bouncing around. Derwin James got the full week off after the concussion in Indianapolis. He practiced in full today on Wednesday. So keep your eye on everybody on Justin Herbert. With that left shoulder, I know he got nicked up a little bit after a big hit. He should be okay. I just think, protocol wise, the Chargers in the league, they have to report any kind of minor injury to the league. So Justin Herbert is on your injury report. Lorenzo, how do you kind of balance, wanting to get that 5 seed versus wanting to, rest your players in week 18 against the Denver Broncos? Because it's right in front of the Chargers. If they are the 5 seed, they are facing the Titans or the Jaguars. If they are the 6 seed, we'll see what happens with this Bills game. They're likely facing the Cincinnati Bengals. Do you care if you're the Chargers, or are you just going to try and rest your guys in week 18? It's tough.
Well, with me, I think that your coach is going to look at this and say, look, if my guys are playing well right now and you got momentum going and you've been winning, you look at playing a team that's Denver that's not going to be playing necessarily for much. So you can say, look, let's get a lead and let's let some backup players play. And backups will go in there and they'll play well because of the fact they're saying, look, I have an opportunity to go out on the field and play. So I want to hold it down. And that's what the starters want. But yeah, if you're the Chargers, you want to go out there and let the starters play. Treat it like preseason. Go in there, let them play the first half. You can scoreboard watch, and if something's going on, you get the scoreboard watch. It'll dictate or let you know what's coming. And with that being said, that's when you know what to do that you can or cannot do. And if you're the Chargers, you're like, okay, who do you want to play? Who do you want to play? You look at Cincinnati and you say, okay, if you're playing the Cincinnati Bengals, you're going to have to score a lot of points. It's going to be a shootout, and you're going to have to travel either way, no matter what, right? So I think if you look at it like that, you're saying, I look at Jacksonville, a Jacksonville team that's not proven in the playoffs yet. So you're saying a team that really embarrassed us. If I'm the Chargers, if I'm looking at it as a Chargers player, I like to play Jacksonville because Jacksonville, really? they smack me around. Even though I think Jacksonville is probably they are a very hot team.
I'm rooting for Tennessee. Well, if Tennessee stuns Jacksonville, I would be joy to go to Nashville.
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah. No, me too. I'm just saying that's not going to happen. So
it's not going to happen.
Yeah, but no. I'd rather play Tennessee Titans without a doubt with the backup quarterback. No question. Bring on the Titans. Yes. Yes, I'm with you, brother. I'm sorry. Totally with you. But I just don't see the Titans beating Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville right now, they're playing great ball. And that's why a little bit, if you're the Chargers and if you can go to Jacksonville and win, I'm telling you right now, if they go to Jacksonville and win, I believe that they can actually make it out of the AFC. Because if you can beat Jacksonville as well as they're playing defensive and offensively, I'm telling you, I think the Chargers will be the team to beat because Buffalo, I don't want to play them. And that's why I think if Cincinnati handles that, Buffalo, to me right now, they've been inconsistent, especially and Josh Allen's been playing short. So Buffalo doesn't scare me. The weather scares me in Buffalo. That's the only thing. But if you can get
I got a question for you. Sorry to cut you. I got a question for you, but it's on my mind. I know it's going to be on our listeners' mind. What happened with DeMar Hamlin? Something like that with the Buffalo Bills. Does that bring your guys together, or does that absolutely collapse your team?
No, see, I think it's a great question. I think it brings your guys together. I don't think it collapses. Now, here's the deal. Now, if it would have been a hit, brother, if you would have seen a guy helmet to helmet, and you think about, oh my God, this football's a violent sport. But what happened? Hopefully, he's going to be okay. But it wasn't something that is jaw dropping. You see what I'm saying? It's not a lick. You say, oh my God, how you looked and said, what happened? That's what I think is the saving grace. I just think that these guys are just tough because it's one of the fallen brothers. But I remember we were playing in San Diego at the time when it was the Chargers and Stephen Foley. You remember Stephen Foley got shot and he was a great linebacker. He was on a roll and the team rallied. We wanted to win the Super Bowl, wanted to get, go on a run. We ended up going on a run. I think we won like 8-9 straight after a horrible incident happened to Stephen Foley, who was never able to play football again. So I don't think it brings your team apart. I think it makes you love one another even more. I think it makes you say, hey, guys, tomorrow's not promised. If that were to happen to me, and unfortunately, if it did happen to me, I know what I would want my team to do. they guys think like right now, if you think about if it's LT or it's guys, Sean Merriman, those guys, and you see those guys, you can say, if that was Lo Neal, what do you think Lo Neal would tell you guys? If he was, if he couldn't speak, they know what my heart is. Just like Hamlin, those guys in that locker room on that team know that the best thing they can do is win and play football in honor of him. That is the biggest gift, I'm telling you. And besides prayer, besides prayer, that's what he would want, is to go out there and those guys to play and play even harder for him.
I appreciate that response, and I hope our listeners appreciate that response as well. And I think understand first off and foremost, these are human beings. Football is secondary, and once we hope and pray, then you kind of represent your teammates and your brothers on the field. Going back to the Chargers, we talk about the 5 seed. Not only you probably want that 5 seed to play Jacksonville, but if you're that 5 seed, it causes the 2 and the 3 seed to have to beat up on one another, and then you would face one of those guys in the title game. You would have to beat the 1 seed, and the 1 seed's very up in the air. I think it's going to be a very interesting debate, right? DeMar Hamlin aside, I know he's still the forefront of the top of everyone's minds, as he should be, but it's going to be interesting from what the league is going to do. Who are they going to give the number 1 seed to? I think it's such an interesting debate, because if Buffalo wins out, they're the number 1 seed. But now Kansas City is like, obviously they would never want this thing to happen, but Kansas City's now is kind of in the 1 seed, and they kind of, because of these unprecedented circumstances, the 1 seed.
So explain. So they might just say whatever the score was. They might just say whoever was winning won that game.
I think they're going to give a tie, or I think they're going to do something off win percentage. Regardless of those two outcomes, it's going to be Kansas City. If they don't make up this game, it's going to be Kansas City, likely, who's going to get the number 1 seed in the AFCs.
So
Go
here's
ahead, Lo.
My question to you is, okay, I said my question would be to you, since the Super Bowl is last week of January or first week of February, right?
Yeah.
So since the Super Bowl, could you see the league saying, "Hey, could the leagues possibly say we got to play this game this Thursday and then play again next Sunday to extend the week by week?" Because it's going to be tough, because Buffalo wants to be the number 1 seed, but yeah, Buffalo at the same sense. Do they say, let's just take this week because they got another game? Don't they have a game this Sunday?
Yeah, they do.
So
it's going to be tough. No, it's going to be. I don't know what the league's going to do. Yeah,
they have, and here's the thing. Unfortunately, and that's the thing. Buffalo's going to have to play this week. I know, and of course, Hamlin, that's the number one thing. I get that. And me and you, and I think everyone understands that. We commend the league for not playing that game, but they're going to have to play this week. And the rest of the teams are going to have to play. So if they're going to call that a tie, if they call it a tie, like you said, Kansas City moves to the number 2 seed, and then Cincinnati moves to the to 2, right? Because they would have, or Buffalo be at 2 still.
No. If it's a tie, what's going to happen is Kansas City is going to be the 1 seed, assuming both Cincinnati and Buffalo win out. Buffalo's going to be the 2 seed, Cincinnati is going to be the 3 seed. The only thing that changes is that Kansas City is the 1 seed because they don't have that tie; they have the win. So Kansas City is going to end up at 14-3. Buffalo is going to be 13-3-1 or something like that, and then Cincinnati is going to be 12-4-1. So that's what's going to happen. So it's a very interesting thing where we're going to see that happens to the league. Obviously, that doesn't truly affect the Chargers, but maybe it does, because if Kansas City's the 1 seed and the Chargers are the 5 seed, the Chargers would have a date with the Chiefs in Arrowhead in that divisional round if they get through the wild card round. And I think the Chargers would relish that opportunity. I think they would relish a team that they were very close to beating twice, and they will have one more crack at them when it matters the most. I think that would set up for a very, very interesting divisional round, Lorenzo Neal. Chargers, Chiefs, and Arrowhead.
I would love that because several reasons. One, I don't want them to go into Buffalo because the weather is very, very different than Kansas City and Buffalo. I know both places are cold, but I think the Chargers rather go there. Also, there's some familiarity when you think about what they do and how they match up against Kansas City. They match up very well against Kansas City. A game, for sure, the first game, people said, hey, coaching lost that game. The Chargers didn't lose that game. So when you think about that game, I like that matchup. So I hope that, unfortunately, I hope that that's the way it works out, that, hey, that Kansas City's the number 1 seed and the Chargers take care of business and, they meet them in the AFC Championship. Who would want that? Who says no?
Yeah, who does says no? It's going to be very, very interesting to see, guys. Remember, also, Chargers game everyone kind of started contributing to the action. Donald Parham caught a touchdown. Gerald Everett caught a touchdown. Austin Eckler had that massive, massive run for 70-plus yards. They also were very solid from a special teams perspective. And also, we have to talk about the return of Joey Bosa. He was activated off injury reserve. He played 24 snaps. I thought he got better as the game went on, but we have to understand that it's going to be great that Joey Bosa is having this game time, because you wouldn't want him to come off the injury and you immediately play him in the postseason. It was good to see Joey get some reps. And I still think, that he looked a little bit rusty. He was a little bit stiff, in the run game. But remember, it's important to note that getting this kind of run for Bosa is going to be interesting. I'd say the final piece of this puzzle is, will this Charger team get Rashawn Slater back? It's looking like they're not going to get him back for week 18. Potentially they can get him back for the postseason, you would hope, in the wild card round. But Lorenzo Neal, I mean, this team is coming together now, at the right time. They've won, four straight games. They went from 6-6 to 10-6. Their defense has tightened up. This was kind of full offensive performance that I enjoyed. I mean, how would you be feeling as a Charger fan right now about this team?
I think Chargers fans should feel great watching the way that they played, and just watching how they were able to get after people. For me, it's very, very simple. When I look at Joey Bosa, when he came back and how he played, like you said, it was great for his time, and it was great to see this guy get back in the mix and start to understand the football and what he's doing. And like you said, he's been out of it for so long. But to be able to activate and get his sea legs back, to be able to, you saw him at times rush and just stop. But he just wanted to get the feel of the game, didn't want to explode and do too much and, maybe injure himself. So I imagine he was a little sore after the game, but this was a good for him. And I think he'll play again this Sunday, because I think you want to continue to have this guy ramp up, but you want him in the playoffs, because if this guy is ready to go, he's got 2 weeks to get better. And now, boom, you start the playoffs and I would seriously think about resting Khalil Mack this week. I think Max played well this year, but he's had to carry a lot of the load, and you see sometimes slowing down at times. But like you said, other guys have stepped up, picked up the slack. But that's a guy that I'm like, hey, look, I'd put him on a pitch count. I'm like, look, because you need him fresh for these playoffs, because you're going to need those guys, because this is going to be a tough gauntlet. Because I think the AFC, in my opinion, the AFC quarterbacks is not even close. Of course, Tom Brady is the greatest of all time. But if you think AFC, to me, and to my opinion, the AFC has way more great quarterback play than the NFC. So it's going to be a gauntlet getting to, and you're getting through the AFC. So what do you need when you got great quarterbacks? You need great pass rushers, and Chargers happen to have a pair of those two guys. So it's imperative for these guys to rest and be ready to go win the playoff push.
I love it. Listen, it's the truth, right? It's not about, are you good in September, October, November? It's about getting hot at the right time. You take a look at the NCAA tournament, March Madness. We've seen a lot of Cinderella teams. At last, St. Peter's, they almost made a Final Four, a 15 seed. It's all about getting hot at the right time. And the offense right now is as good as it's been all season. The defense is red hot. The special team, surprisingly, has been the most consistent thing about this team all year long. Couple that with having most of their key players back, and this Chargers team, guys, can make some serious noise. They're still missing their starting left tackle, and I think they're going to get him back pretty soon. What happens if LA gets the 5th seed and they play the Jags, and then they win that after a second win, a conference championship? There we go. The roll can start to begin for the Chargers. Now, listen, we're not here to calculate ways that they're going to make a Super Bowl, but we're here to tell you the facts. And the facts are right now, this team is playing their best football of the year at the best time of the year. If you were to tell me, and Lorenzo talks about it, this team had to weather some huge storms, so some massive storms, losing 8, 9, 10 key players, their entire Pro Bowl players at a certain point of the season, and they never really fell below 500. If you notice, they were at 500, but they never fell below 500. And they were 5-5. They go to Arizona, they convert a massive 2-point conversion to win that game 25-24. They weather the storm. Right after that loss in Vegas, they haven't lost a game. So what is the point? This team is battle tested. They're resilient, and there's no such thing as a Super Bowl team that doesn't have any of those characteristics. So the Chargers right now have the DNA to make a big time run at a championship. Now, are there still flaws with this team? Absolutely. Does the offense still make me want to pull out my hair? Absolutely. But nevertheless, they've proven to me that they can win games, and they can now start to beat good teams, not only mediocre teams. So Lorenzo, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, there's not much more to talk about. I just want to see this team compete for a championship. And I think right now, considering everything that this team has gone through earlier on the year, we can't be complaining too much about where this team stands, huh?
No, you can't. They always say you can't pray for rain and complain about the mud. I tell you what, we had a lot of mud and had a lot of rain. That's a good thing. Everyone's talking about it. We need more rain and we're getting it. So, hey, the Chargers are where they want to be. They weathered their storm. They got, you know what? They got guys healthy. Guys are coming back full force. This is a great opportunity for the Chargers. They got in the dance. That's what we wanted. We said have an opportunity to be playing in January and February. Just give yourself the chance. What if this team didn't give itself the chance, like the Raiders losing 8 games by one score? Think about this team. If you could have been, you're the Raiders. There's so many teams out there to say, man, we're so close, but yet so far. The Chargers had everything go against them, losing, like you said, 8, 9 Pro Bowl players, caliber players, and losing them for a significant amount of time, and still able to weather the storm and just have the opportunity to say, guess what? We have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. We have a chance. We have earned the right to be in the postseason. That's big. So people can't complain. Charger fans, be happy. Chargers fans, be excited, because you know what? There's a lot of teams that are at home after this week and won't have the opportunity to compete for a championship.
All right, Chargers fans. Well, listen, that is going to do it. Next time we see y'all, it is going to be playoff time. We're going to be recapping the Denver Broncos game after Week 18. It's a very interesting time for the National Football League. They have a lot on their plate. And again, one more time, prayers up to DeMar Hamlin and that family. Chargers fans, it should be an absolute special time. And I think Lorenzo Neal and I are some of the better duos to have you covered for this playoff run. So gear up, bolt up, Chargers fans, and be well. Cheers.